One of the most popular ETFs in the UK is VUSA. This is Vanguard UK's S&P 500 ETF, and today I'm going to give you the complete guide to this. But before we do get started, have you ever wondered what exactly an ETF is? Well, in case you didn't know, here's a real quick explanation. So, in short, an ETF is an exchange-traded fund, and this essentially tracks a broader range of stocks all at once. When you invest into an individual company, like let's say Apple, you own Apple stock and Apple stock only. However, let's say you invest into an ETF, you might actually own Apple stock, but you're also going to own a bunch of other stocks all at the same time. ETFs are a really great way to invest into a bunch of companies all at once for a single security. Okay, so now that we know this, let's talk about VUSA and understand exactly what it is and what it tracks. VUSA tracks the S&P 500, which represents the 500 largest companies within the US stock market. A lot of these companies you would have definitely heard of and likely use them in your day-to-day life, but I'll get into that shortly. But essentially, when it comes to VUSA's goal, it's simply to mirror the performance of this index. Basically, all it wants to do is give you the exact same return as if you were to invest into all 500 or so of these companies yourself. Let's dive into some key information about VUSA and look at some of the historical returns, and I'll also show you where you need to go if you want to invest into it. As of filming this video, VUSA has a current market price of £85.36. This means if you want to own one share of this ETF, that's what it's going to cost you. Now, if you do buy one share of this at around £85, this means that you are going to get exposure to 504 stocks. I will cover some of the biggest ones in a second, but essentially your money is spread across those 504 companies, so your risk is going to be spread out quite nicely. And finally, the ongoing charge associated with this ETF is going to be 0.07%. This is a fee that is taken by Vanguard, who owns the product, and the company who created this fund. There might be other fees associated with this, such as broker fees, but 0.07% is very cheap, especially when you compare it to maybe the percentage you would pay if you hired a fund manager to pick the stocks for you. One more thing to point out is that VUSA also pays dividends. The current dividend yield is at around 1.04%, and this is going to be paid out quarterly. And another thing is that with VUSA, this dividend will actually be paid out into your account as cash because this is what is classed as an income generating fund. Vanguard also does offer what is called an accumulation option called VUAG, which essentially just tracks the same S&P 500, but instead it automatically reinvests your dividends for you over time. Now, when it comes to which one you should pick, essentially, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get the dividend paid to you either way, but one will go straight back in and the other one will pay you where you get to choose if you want to put it straight back in yourself or pocket the cash. Now, with that said, let's actually talk about what's inside VUSA, because since it tracks the S&P 500, all the stocks are actually based in North America. That's kind of obvious, but what's not so obvious is sector-wise. VUSA is dominated by information technology. Roughly 31% of its holdings are in this sector. This is then followed by financials and consumer discretionary, which actually does nicely bring me on to some of the biggest companies within this ETF. And there's definitely going to be some familiar names here. For example, at the time of recording this video, Microsoft holds around 6.79% of the fund, which means that if you were to buy one share of VUSA for that around £85 that we mentioned, about £5.77 of that is going to be invested into Microsoft alone. But some other big names on the list is going to include Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla. These are, of course, some of the biggest companies in the world, and I can almost guarantee that you're using one of them actually right now. But with that said, let's now look at how VUSA has actually performed in the past. But of course, one thing to remember, this should never be measured as an indication for future performance, but regardless, the numbers are still very impressive. Over the last 52 weeks, the fund's price has ranged from a low of £73.95 to a high of £93.81. The fund did take a little bit of a dip during those tariff tensions a couple of months back, but since then, it has slowly but steadily been making a small comeback. Now, as I said at the start of the video, investing into a fund like this, you have to look at the bigger picture. And for me, this is where the past performance has actually been really impressive. Since inception, VUSA has had an average annual return of 13.94%, and in the last 5 rolling years, we saw almost 40% returns in 2020-21. We did have some slower years following that, but the last 2 years have once again shown some really strong returns, and this is really good for what is generally considered a low-risk fund. But once again, I will say it, use all of these figures as a guide and not as a promise of what's to come. Next up, let's talk about where you can actually go ahead and buy and invest into VUSA if that's something you want to do. Now, VUSA is a product that is created by Vanguard, and you can invest into it directly through Vanguard's brokerage site. But don't worry, you're not limited to just using their platform. You can also buy VUSA from other platforms such as Trading 212, Hargreaves Lansdown, or Invest Engine. It's exactly the same product. Essentially, what matters here the most are, number one, the platform fees and how easy their apps are to use. Personally, I recommend Trading 212. It's, in my opinion, the easiest to use, and to my knowledge, it has some of the lowest fees at the time of recording this video. Also, another thing to mention is that since this is a UK-based video for UK investors, one really important tip is to always invest within a stocks and shares ISA if you can. This will basically protect you from any tax on your investment gains over the years, as long as you are investing within this type of account. All of the top trusted brokers, including the ones I mentioned in this video, offer stocks and shares ISAs, and if your broker doesn't, it's probably best to look elsewhere. If you did want to learn more about ISAs, you can check out this video right here, but that's essentially your complete guide to VUSA. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments down below. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.